Hi everyone, my name is Gaurav. I am here representing JcPenney, and along with my colleagues Mackenzie, Christy, Chris, and Brandon, today we will be discussing some of the issues happening at JcPenney in August of 2012 and how we believe these issues can be solved. We will start by going over the problem statement that JcPenney is currently having. After, we will be doing a situation analysis to see how JcPenney is doing when comparing it to the industry. Next, we will go through some alternatives and select one as our recommendation. And finally, we will be presenting a plan to put that recommendation into action. Before diving into the problem statement, I want to provide some background on JcPenney. If you didn't know, JcPenney is primarily a clothing store which also sells some home goods. It targets middle market customers, which means it doesn't sell very cheap items, but also not very expensive ones. It is located primarily in suburban towns and cities. Its core base is older customers who have been shopping at JcPenney for a long time, and a lot of these customers are also moms. These customers love to come to the physical stores and shop for bargains and look for sales. However, JcPenney's loyal fan base is starting to shrink. Stores such as H&M and Zara are entering the market, and online retail is just starting to happen. Also, with the recession, customers have been spending less. This has caused JcPenney, that once had over 2,000 stores, to only have 1,100 stores in the suburban areas in large cities. As you can see, by looking at the state of JcPenney, some changes needed to be made. Therefore, a new CEO by the name of Ron Johnson was hired. Ron Johnson helped rebrand Target into what it is known today and helped create the Apple Store with its Genius Bar. Ron Johnson believed he would be able to solve all of JcPenney's problems. However, this is currently not the case. As of August 2012, there have been some issues, which leads us to our problem statement. Ron Johnson's newly revamped, all-inclusive business strategy at JcPenney to improve market share has failed in the short term and is yet to show results in the long term. Now, I'll be handing it off to Mackenzie and Christy to go over the situation analysis.
Thank you, Gaurav, for the introduction and the overview of the problems we are facing here at JcPenney. I'll be going over the situational analysis, including the pest analysis and discussion of the competition, along with my colleague Christy, who will discuss history of JcPenney, the SWOT analysis, and the marketing mix. First, I'll begin with the current landscape here at JcPenney in the year 2012. Politically, this year is an election year, which can cause some volatility in the markets. However, unemployment after the recession is continually decreasing and recovery is taking place. Next, we have the economical environment. We are now 3 years post-Great Recession, and as we all know, recessions can take quite a few years to fully recover from. But many other industries are on the rise, so we feel comfortable that retail is on the upswing as well. However, a concern is that there has been a rise in thrift shopping due to not only the recession and economic environment, but also because of the growing concern of sustainability and environmental impact of consumerism. As for social, it seems that more people are moving to cities to live rather than suburbs or rural areas. This is impacting shopping centers, malls, and other stores in those suburban and rural areas, and is moving big name stores to cities or to even online shopping. Which brings me to Instagram and social media. Instagram has been around for 2 years now, and we are seeing that social media is starting to influence buying decisions, especially for millennials. And lastly, we have the technological environment. We are seeing that big data is starting to become very important to retailers like us. Other retailers are starting to use data and analytics to precisely track buying patterns and trends, and some retailers are even using that data to push and sell products to consumers online or through promotions, both via email and postal mail. Similarly, we are seeing a mass move of retailers towards e-commerce or online shopping, in addition to their brick-and-mortar stores. Next, I'd like to discuss JcPenney's competition. Our 3 biggest competitors currently are Sears, Kohl's, and Macy's, with Kohl's and Macy's being the most successful of these three. These three retailers have managed to stay afloat during the recession due to blockbuster sales, coupons, and cash. If you don't know what cash is a coupon in dollars used in store, for example, for $10 off or $10 in cash. These retailers have also made moves toward e-commerce. Some have even reallocated funds to increase their promotional marketing budgets to drive people into the stores. JcPenney has also done similar things historically as well. I'd also like to mention that our non-department store competition are also retailers such as Target and Walmart, which are continuously expanding their offerings and always offer a low price. Historically, JcPenney's differentiation from competitors was our perceived value through our high-low pricing, in which we marked things up to mark them down for sales. Our products were similar to quality to other retailers, but the perceived savings or value was what brought people in the store. However, we have recently struggled to differentiate ourselves after the switch to the fair and square or everyday low prices model. Now I'd like to visualize our competitors in a simple BCG matrix, which compares competition through market share and growth. We determine these standings based on each retailer's 10Ks released in March of this year, 2012. We have determined that Sears is a dog, as they haven't been able to remain differentiated from other retailers given their product offerings, and based on their 10Ks, they have a high debt-to-income ratio and don't show signs of rebounding or growing in the next few years. As for Macy's, they have been able to differentiate from other retailers in recent years because of their move towards e-commerce. They don't have a great debt-to-income ratio, but have been able to drive revenue in recent years, which looks promising for the future. But we have put them here as a question mark, as we don't know yet if they'll be able to sustain their current model. Similarly to Macy's, Kohl's has been able to differentiate themselves in recent years due to a move to e-commerce, but has also continued to have sales, coupons, and cash to drive in-store purchases. Kohl's has a good debt-to-income ratio and has been able to operate with a positive net income with cash assets as well. So we have determined that they are a cash cow, as we don't know if they'll be able to continue to grow or stagnate as the economy rebounds. Lastly, Target is a star currently, as they have been able to set themselves apart as a mass retailer offering a one-stop shop for consumers and have been able to develop smart strategic partnerships. Target has a great debt-to-income ratio and has a large amount of cash assets. However, right now for JcPenney, we are a question mark. We have been able to maintain a good debt-to-income ratio, but are currently operating at a loss and do not have much cash and assets. We are currently trying to differentiate ourselves through our product offerings and our new pricing model, but haven't seen yet if that will help our market share in the future. Now that you know about the current environment and know more about our competition, I'll turn it over to Christy to discuss our history, SWOT analysis, and the marketing mix.
Thanks, Mackenzie. As mentioned, I'll briefly walk us through our history via the steps of the product life cycle to better understand the situation that we're in today. JcPenney actually started out as the Golden Rule when the store first opened in 1902 in Wyoming. It wasn't until 1913 that we rebranded as JcPenney and also experienced a rapid time of growth. By our 50th anniversary, we were experiencing over $1 billion in sales annually. And by the time of 1973, we hit our peak number of stores with over 2,000 nationwide. However, by 2002, we began to mature and growth slowly slowed down, given that we had new competitors, as the one Mackenzie mentioned, enter the market. And then, unfortunately, only just 10 years later, here we are in 2012, where we've slowly been underperforming year to year and losing our stores. Now we have only around 1,000, as mentioned previously by Gorov, as compared to the 2,000 we once had. It's clear that in order to change things around, we needed a new direction, and with that came Ron Johnson. However, we should re-examine if we are in fact on the right path. So in order to do that, we'll take a second look through our marketing mix and SWOT assessment before summarizing all the key facts and introducing our thoughts on possible next steps or alternative paths for JCP. So here's a quick overview of our marketing mix, and it shows that overall we're still fully committed to this retail department industry, albeit a declining industry. our product are, again, home goods, services, and in terms of place, our stores are located nationally in small towns with a recently revamped design. Overall, we've also begun to slowly step into the online shopping arena. In terms of price, we were primarily known to cater to customers who were deal hunters who enjoyed the game of finding deals. However, with Ron Johnson's fair and square pricing strategy, we went from 590 unique sales to a 3-tiered pricing strategy to ultimately, more recently, a 1-tiered pricing strategy. And in terms of promotion, we've been mainly focused on delivering marketing material to make sure that our customers understand this new pricing strategy. However, the success has been mixed, with some positive feedback from our campaign with celebrities, but not so much in terms of making sure that our customers understand the true value that they're now getting at JcPenney. With that being said, here's the first half of our SWOT assessment. Our strengths include our agility. JcPenney has shown that we've been able to quickly adapt to new leadership, as shown by the changes we've had to make with Ron Johnson's new fair and square implementation in February, as well as the recent changes he also made in addition in August. So, if necessary, we'll be able to do it again. In terms of our consumer base, we have a large one. It's just a matter of finding a way to leverage them in the best way without losing them. Lastly, we have excellent employees. Our workforce is especially skilled, and that's been something we've been proud of even prior to Ron Johnson's introduction. In terms of our weaknesses, however, we're lost sight of our target customers and we've quite gotten a good grasp on the new target that we've also had our sights set on. In terms of brand and name recognition, JcP seems to have fallen in the middle of the pack and doesn't have quite the same recognition as other retailers, despite having its own product line. And lastly, we're known to do it all. However, while that does sound like a good idea, it also has given us a reputation of being somewhat mediocre. Unfortunately, it seems like our weaknesses currently outweigh our strengths, which has dramatically hindered our ability to compete with other retailers. And now, here are some of our external opportunities and threats. With our new store layout, JcP has been showing itself to be a new and innovative leader, kind of reminiscent of what Apple is currently doing for technology. It's a great way for us to potentially differentiate and lead the pack. In terms of e-commerce, most of our competitors have been starting to dabble, but no one is quite excelling in it. So here is an opportunity for us to not only get into it, but do it big. In terms of threats, we also are concerned about our labor workforce, given that our recent changes have led to employee dissatisfaction and attrition. So we'll need to find out a way to keep our employees moving forward. And of course, other threats are our known competitors, of which we've been talking about extensively, and which have been taking away from our low price target market as well as the higher price point target market. And lastly, the pricing model. We've changed from a high-low pricing model to the everyday low pricing strategy. And although it is innovative, we've also quite strayed away from what most other retailers have been doing, and which has led to some confusion. So this is one of the biggest threats that we're currently facing today. Overall, it does seem as if our strengths are not fully capitalizing on opportunities that exist, and our current weaknesses have only exacerbated the threats. So all in all, to give a brief recap of where we stand after Johnson's first introduction of Fair and Square in February, and the slight adjustments he made in August with the re-addition of sales and clearances, here are some things that are going well for us. 1, our store layout and design has been revamped, modern, and sleek, and it's great. Customers really seem to like it. Secondly, customers also like the fact that we're still keeping up with the trendy fashion, so we're in tune with what they want in terms of the offerings. And lastly, we still have overall good publicity, despite our promotional campaign isn't quite delivering the message about value that we want, but people seem to really like the celebrities that we've been able to have support JcPenney's image. The bad, however, is that we've alienated our main customer base. Department stores are also overall a declining market. And lastly, once again, customers aren't quite understanding the value that they're getting from the new JcPenney, as they're still perceiving prices to be higher than reality. So with all these things in mind, we've been able to hone in on 3 main things if we're wanting to get out of this declined phase. First, we need to get customers to come back to the stores. Secondly, we need to communicate the true value of shopping with JcP. And lastly, we need to capitalize on opportunities that create high growth. So next, I'll be handing it off to Chris, who will discuss the possible next steps for us to reach these critical goals.
Thank you, Christy. With these key factors in mind, we've created 4 alternative solutions that offer different strengths and weaknesses depending on the strategy we want to take moving forward. These are keeping it fair and square, proving fair and square, reversing fair and square, and combining fair and square with high and low. The first alternative, keeping it fair and square, assumes Ron Johnson's vision will come to fruition with time, but due to the sheer number of changes, customers need time to process the changes and eventually realize JcPenney's continued value. Further changes risks losing customers indefinitely due to the sheer amount of confusion caused in the past few quarters. Therefore, it is a legitimate possibility that despite the current flaws, further changes could do irreparable damage, and therefore our only option is to wait and see. This plan hinges on the belief that Ron Johnson's vision will, over time, communicate value to customers, and as a result draw in customers through the modernized store design and will allow department stores to enter a new growth market. Keeping it fair and square allows the original vision to be seen through and prevents further confusing customers. And additionally, it keeps the heart of James Cash Penney's founding values. However, it takes a big risk in alienating its current customers in favor of a new, modernized target customer base that has yet to be seen. The second alternative, proving fair and square, gives a few tweaks to an overall strong vision. The commitment to remove pricing strategies that are proven to work at the most fundamental level of human nature must be introduced under this plan, and the actual value of JcPenney's fair and square approach must be shown directly to the customers, both through price tag and marketing. Remember, during this entire process, if you take 10 of the cheapest items from a department store mix, 9 out of 10 are JcPenney products. This is the level of simplicity that we will communicate in the future. Customers don't need to do the math. Finally, to solve JcPenney's staffing crisis, which further prevents effective communication of product value, staff salary will be increased to the average compensation achieved under the commission model without reintroducing the commissions themselves. Under this revised fair and square plan, we will directly communicate the value JcPenney offers every day. This reduction in confusion and understanding of value will entice customers to visit and will stay with JcPenney's sleek new design, helpful staff, and clear savings. Through this plan, JcPenney will forge a new growth stage in department store business models. Reversing fair and square entails JcPenney's return to the tried and true high-low business model through which department stores currently operate. Ron Johnson tried to steer us away from this model, but it is a viable option that may allow us to retain our current deal-hunting customer base and provide us enough capital to focus on e-commerce, which has the potential to be a much higher growth market. JcPenney will keep the revitalized look and feel, which is a strong point within the restructuring, but will otherwise revert to previous pricing and marketing strategies with the addition of resource allocation towards e-commerce. By reversing Ron Johnson's restructuring, our customer base will return and generate acceptable earnings in the short term while we build up our potential through e-commerce. JcPenney has a unique advantage in e-commerce due to its vast but significantly lower cost real estate holdings. This allows us to leverage our existing infrastructure and seamlessly integrate online shopping and delivery options without incurring a large distribution or storage cost. Additionally, we can expect stable earnings while this new market is developed. The risk we take here, however, and it can't be discounted, is that stable earnings are not achieved through this reversal due to customers abandoning JcPenney brand in favor of options that are less volatile and confusing because we've already made so many changes. Additionally, e-commerce has not fully proven itself, and we risk moving into a market that does not achieve the growth we hope. Our final alternative attempts to combine Ron Johnson's new vision with the old. Using JcPenney's vast store offerings, we can strategically target both the deal hunter market and the fair and square target market at the same time by offering coupons and frequent deals on some store inventory while offering the fair and square everyday low prices on others that aren't subjected to those coupons and deals. Additionally, we can use seasonal events to offer high-low prices at times that are expected to be sensible to the customer, like Halloween, Christmas, or Easter. Combining high-low with fair and square expects to communicate value in a targeted manner to whichever pricing model the customer prefers. In tandem with JcPenney's fresh redesign, we can expect to keep our old customer base and draw in a new customer base that department stores have not yet seen, which could lead to a new phase of growth for JcPenney department stores. Now, this strategy involves tremendous risk that both customer segments can be targeted simultaneously without either targeted strategy deterring the other through confusion or distrust. But it does offer the chance to expand the retail department store's market segment into a much larger market overall. Now, with that said, Brandon is going to give us our final recommendation and go over its implementation. Brandon?
What recommendation are we going with? We are going with alternative number 2, which is proving fair and square. So proving fair and square made the most sense financially and from an overall transformation perspective. As Chris had mentioned, with this plan, we will be making a few changes to Ron Johnson's original vision to make the pricing model more approachable and easier to understand. The goal under this plan is to take an active role in demonstrating the value of JcPenney's products and enter a new era of growth within e-commerce. With that recommendation in mind, we want to share with you what you can take away. What is the plan of action that we are going to take? As I mentioned before, first and foremost, JcPenney will take an active role in demonstrating the value of its products to its consumers and effectively communicating that value to all of those who already love JcPenney, which are a lot of people. We believe that JcPenney has a large enough base of consumers that remains untapped since the recent changes, and leveraging this consumer base and properly communicating the advantages of fair and square will be key for JcPenney's future growth. So what does it mean on more of a tactical level? So if you look more in the middle column there, a couple of the key highlights I wanted to bring to your attention are that we will show dollar and percentage savings, example being from $16.99 MSRP down to $9.99 in store. We're going to increase the employee pay as a means to solve the staffing issue. We're going to develop a revamped marketing campaign to help educate consumers and prove fair and square. And lastly, we're going to dive headfirst into e-commerce. So why this plan? What makes this plan stand apart from the others? Well, for starters, JcPenney has gone through many changes recently, and while they have proven to be very agile, further overhauls are likely to cause distrust in customers. And by choosing to approve the Fair and Square plan, we are able to make changes that demonstrate the value that JcPenney currently offers without discarding Ron Johnson's vision. Why are we choosing to choose alternative number 2 over the others? While the other alternatives were effective in their own right, they did not sufficiently address JcPenney's key concerns. With alternative 1, keeping it fair and square, there was not enough evidence to prove that this plan would actually work. By essentially letting it ride the way that it was, there was too much risk with obvious glaring issues being present. With alternative 3, reversing fair and square, there'd be too many changes in a short period of time, which could potentially confuse the consumers even more and lead to consumer distrust. And so lastly, with alternative 4, combining fair and square and high-low, there were far too many moving parts that made it difficult to implement, way too difficult to implement. Logistically, it would have been very difficult to deploy, and that is why we did not go with it. What does the timeline look like for JcPenney moving forward, and what kind of budgetary changes should we be expecting? Well, for the timeline, we plan to increase employee pay in Q3 of 2012. This should allow us to maintain some of our current employees and bring others back. In Q4 of 2012, we're going to make slight adjustments to the pricing model. In Q1 of 2013, we plan to produce a new marketing campaign, as I mentioned, that further educates the consumer. In Q2 of 2013, we're going to be launching that new marketing campaign, as well as hiring an e-commerce team to get started on the platform. And second to last, we have in 2013 of Q3, we plan to launch the e-commerce platform if possible. Now we're going to have to do some evaluation here and make sure that it is feasible. But once that has been done, we will potentially launch that campaign. And in 2016, we're going to kind of regroup and evaluate the past results and the efficacy of these plans moving forward. For the budget, I wanted to kind of give an outline of what we can expect to be paying, or what we can expect to be investing rather, over the coming years. So these estimates below provide a good foundation for what JcPenney should expect to spend over the next 2 years to implement the changes proposed. Overall, the changes make up a little over 1/3 of the revenues from last year, but with this investment, we are confident that it will pay dividends in the future. So what if this plan does not work? Well, as a contingency, if the sales have not been improved by Q3 of 2013, we've decided that we will restructure and focus on e-commerce, kind of like we mentioned before. So what this restructuring may entail is new leadership, as outlined below, a liquidation of 40% of our stores, and to expedite the e-commerce push. So, as Ron Johnson so aptly put, a transformation is a marathon and not a sprint. By proving fair and square, we stay true to JcPenney's core values and utilize Ron Johnson's innovative leadership to restore and grow our customer base. And if we go with this plan, we are confident that we will be able to achieve that.